Here's a quick question for you. So if I give you a piece of meat now and I tell you that this lovely piece of meat, suya, chicken, whatever meat it is, if I tell you this lovely piece of meat was actually grown in a laboratory, would you eat it? Or will the very thought of eating meat grown in a laboratory make you want to throw up? Well, a team of scientists from Japan have been able to devise a means to grow a chunk of meat big enough, about 11 grams of meat. And they're saying that between 5 to 10 years, we might be in a place where we'll be able to grow meat in a laboratory and eat the meat. I know that very thought would scare some people because you'll be wondering, what exactly do they mean by growing meat in the laboratory? Now, the idea of growing meat in the laboratory is not actually a very new thing. It's been developing for a while. And basically what happens is they take a cell, tiny cell or some cells from specific areas of an animal. So for instance, a chicken breast, you just take some tiny cells from there and then they provide those cells nutrients, just a bit like mimicking the circulatory system, right? So what happens in our system is the blood circulates all around our body and the cells are being fed constantly with nutrients and oxygen, and that keeps them alive. So what happens is they are able to take tiny cells, feed them with sufficient oxygen and nutrients, and then the cells are grown with time. So it's the same chicken or the same beef or whatever you end up eating. But the challenge with that thing before now is once the meat starts growing big, it becomes difficult to get oxygen and blood to the central part. So it becomes very difficult to feed the central part of the cell. And so the cells eventually die out. And so what these scientists have been able to do is they've been able to devise a means where they would take the cells, suspend the cells in some bioreactor, just imagine like a machine, where the cell is suspended in like a gel that is constantly being fed by tiny tubes with oxygen and nutrient. And so they've been able to do that, and they've grown meat to the size of about 11 grams. 11 grams, just to picture that. I think I should have something here. So you're looking at something of this size, I guess. So about 2 centimeters by 1 centimeter size of meat. That's what they've been able to grow. And they are so excited about this development that they believe that with time, they would be able to grow bigger sizes, bigger chunks, and not just grow bigger chunks. They are considering the possibility of growing organs. So, currently, if people need heart transplants and kidney transplants, for kidney, I think it's a bit different because you could get someone who would volunteer to donate one of their kidneys. But with heart, for you to get a heart, someone has to die. So it's either someone is involved in an accident and they are not able to recover, and so they quickly transplant the heart, or people in conditions where, for several reasons, that's how you would get a heart. Someone has to lay their lives down for you to get a heart. A bit like how we get meat now. And I know that's not a fair comparison. And by the way, let me quickly state, so it doesn't sound like I'm judging people, I also still eat meat. I don't know if I'm very proud of that, but I still do eat meat. So what I'm about to say should not sound like I'm judging other people. Now, the idea of us as a species living on other animals. Do you know there are some slaughterhouses where they actually play classic music for cows and pigs as they wheel them to the slaughter? So this idea that we would grow other animals and eat them as food, it's a bit it's a bit challenging sometimes when you think about it. And not just that aspect of the issue. From an environmental point of view, animal farming has a significant impact on climate change. Now, the greenhouse gas, mostly methane, that comes from raising animals in that large number that we eat is a concern. Land use is a concern. Use of water. There are a lot of deforestation. There are a lot of factors around animal farming that affects the environment. So, for several reasons, it would be a good idea if we get to a point where we no longer need to slaughter animals to eat meat, where we eat actual real meat that feels like real meat without having to get animals to lay down their lives. And that's why it's a bit exciting to me. But the big question, however, is how many people will be willing to eat meat if they know that this meat was actually grown in a laboratory? And that's the question I would like you to help me answer. So I'd like you to leave a comment in the comment section. What do you think? Would you eat meat grown in a lab? The very thought of it, right, makes you want to think, nah, if it's not. But like I said, this is going to be actual meat because it's a tiny chunk of meat taken and made to grow to a big size of meat. So it's going to be meat. The only difference is no animal would have died. The environmental impact would have reduced. Another interesting thing they are looking at is, so imagine being able to fortify the meat with specific nutrients that individuals need. For instance, if people need iron in their system for some treatment or whatever, you can use those pipes to feed that into the meat. So it's specially designed meat for special purpose. Now, I'm making it sound very interesting, but I am sure that there are people who still listen to me and go, nah, I'm not eating meat from the lab. Well, let me know what you think. I mean, I'm really interested in knowing what you think. So, for now, thank you for your time and see you again soon.